Hello, everyone. I wanted to share this little thought experience that I'm having at this moment because a lot of us are time boxing, and it's a very interesting one to see that it is helping them or not. And based on like actually having that conversations with people and tuning into what do you actually want to create in a certain way. Let me say differently. Like right now, I was looking at the Pomodoro technique, and then that includes that you use a 25 minutes of time period, and then 3 minutes of downtime, and then 25 minutes, 3 minutes downtime, and then do it 4 times, and then have a little bit of a higher gap. So then you have basically 2 hours of work that you've done, or at least now time that you have spent. And in this whole spiritual world that I'm leaning into in relatively skilled people, to be honest, there are skilled people that are doing this. Like their mindset is skilled. They're as an individual they are skilled. Not particularly their business side because they are still struggling with that aspect, especially in the spiritual world. People in that business side are very much lacking by average, like in general. But what I noticed is that many people are still kind of stuck in that concept of time. And the escape that I want to give, or at least the option that I want to give, that mindset, is that there's no real such a thing as time. There's only you and the present you, and if you're present in the here and the now, then your perception of spending time or your perception of time actually slows down. If you're more in that present of the here and the now, then you can think so much deeper. Then you realize so much further. Then it's not about working 25 minutes. Like, that's what I call the kind of the dark side of productivity. It's not about being more productive. Well, it is, but it isn't. It's about being more efficient. It is. I should call myself an efficiency coach instead of a productivity coach, but that's kind of missing my niche of the people. Um, but it's that idea of it's not actually about the output that you deliver. How much output that you deliver, it's not really that much valuable. Well, it is, but it isn't. It's about you aligning everything in your life towards your own ideal lifestyle. That could be like you sitting on the couch and relaxing, or you working and doing this programming, having calls with people, just doing. If that is your ideal version, then that's the ideal step. So being productive is choosing which actions that you need to take to make something happen at the end result. So every time, like I get a little not goosebumps, but I get like shivers when I'm hearing someone say time box 2 hours, and if then the action isn't completed, then it's okay. Then at least you don't um, like spend too much time on that subject. Well, then your subject is not completed or your task is not completed. If you're just spending 2 hours and then you're like, well, but it's okay. Like, what am I actually doing then? Whatever you put your mind to is something that's worth completing. Because otherwise, why begin at the first hand? Like, why actually do it? Like, align everything that you have within your life to what do you want to create? What's that ideal version? Is that having an amazing love relationship, having that an amazing finance, having an amazing body, having um, typing skills until, I don't know, 80 words per minute. Like whatever you decide upon, that is creating that end result in a certain way. What I see, what a lot of us are doing, like including me sometimes, it is feeling that stress of there's too little time and we need to rush, rush, rush. And then it creates us needing to time box certain times or manage our time, which makes us feel like that we are a prisoner of our own calendar, basically. And then now with the beautiful, I recently saw something with the beautiful AI opportunities, that the AI was time boxing something for you. So you just needed to put on the information inside of it, and then it will create your time schedule. Yeah, but do you really want to? Like, half of the world is afraid of that the AI is taking over our world. Well, I would say it as in use it to your advantage. Use it for the benefit of your personal growth. Like, for real. Like, do everything that you can, because your personal growth is the thing that helps every one of us. Like, I deliberately added this picture because this is the world that we're going towards. Like having that wealth, having that health, spiritual mindset, spiritual clarity. Like every one of us is such an amazing piece of soul. Like that value that all of us have. It's 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 unbelievable. Like the vibration that it's sending out because of that. And it's this is also why I love like streaming and just going live, like whatever. It's that improving your own skill in such a way that you can experience that freedom and that. Yeah, no. What I wanted to say is in this is something that many people like don't know just yet. Little background: I'm an electrical engineer, or I've been educated as an electrical engineer. I don't want to identify myself with the job. That's something that Europeans often do, especially in Dutch language, I think. Ik ben een elektrotechnicus, but never mind. I have been educated as an electrical engineer, and I have been very skeptical upon kind of every level of spiritual growth. This includes meditation, energy work, intuition, manifestation power, the power of positivity. That's also a big one. Like I wrote it down recently. I am a recovering pessimist. So my body still experiences that specificity. No, not, but being being a pessimist. But my mindset chooses to focusing on more positive things, more and more and more. Like I'm practicing that. So, so my background is electrical engineering. So that means vibrational states of like the electricity actually runs on 50 hertz or 60 hertz. So that actually means the vibrational state on how fast that the electrons like move. It's not completely right, but so that frequency level. And in the spiritual world, you often speak about high vibrational beings, or being in a high frequency, or having positive emotions help comparison to having those negative emotions. And it's a very interesting one, because what I asked a while ago, I posted a video upon that regarding the map of consciousness and stuff like that. So what I started to ask, as in, okay, but what exactly is the combination of the emotional state comparison to what they call the higher frequencies? I really didn't know. Like, as in being humble and just asking, as in, I'm kind of lost in this situation. And based on that, there was something from David Hawkins that is called the map of consciousness. Kind of appears. And it explains the levels of personal growth. No, not even personal growth, but the levels of frequency which our soul or our observer of our being observes as emotional states. So that means if you as a person are experiencing negativity, like depression, angerness, self-doubt, self-blame, all of those lower emotions, those negative emotions that you've experienced, then what, as far as I understand it at this moment, like please correct me if I'm missing something somewhere. Then the cells in your body, the atoms in your body, actually move less quickly. So within that electrical engineering, like the frequencies of the atoms that are moving, the higher that they move, the higher that our body, it's not even our body, but the observer of our body experiences that as positive emotions. But imagine that, like the whole body is in a certain way an antenna or a piece of frequency generator in a certain way. There's like cells constantly moving, vibrating. And the higher that they are vibrating, the more positive emotion that you are experiencing. And this also includes like a very important thing that I've been struggling with myself. As in, if you're stuck in that depression and then you need to go into that angerness feels better comparison to being depressed. Like, and it's such an important realization to have, to be grateful for being happy at that moment, or no, to be grateful for being angry if you've been depressed beforehand. Like the people around you will not like that because they prefer you to be depressed comparison to you being angry. But in that state, it will create you feeling better as a general. Like the only thing that people around us need to do is to give you that space of you experiencing those better feeling emotions. Because if I give you that free reign of, even if you get negative or if you're pointing out stuff as negative pointers, then I want to give you that space of being there at that moment. It is only when you have that experience of that negativity, that angerness, that you point stuff out in the world, and later on you'll grow into neutrality or acceptance or friendship or I don't know the rest of the skills on top of my mind. And what a lot of us are doing, if someone becomes angry, then we're like, not going to, like, they're judging someone for being angry. And that's a very interesting one. And what I noticed in a couple of the conversations that I had with some people that I did in the coaching, but also without the coaching containers, but especially within coaching, that's very, very powerful there. It is helping that, or creating that safe container for them to experience to experience those emotional states. It's unbelievable how powerful that is. And the combination of, like, I do work with a lot of coaches. I have contact with a lot of coaches, like a lot of self-development and also positivity, like a lot of positivity, and they share a lot of positivity in their social media feeds, for example, or in their outside world. And like, if you are me, and let me say it differently, if you are me a year ago, then you're reading about someone who is experiencing love and happiness and gratefulness and stuff like that. That really doesn't come in your system because you're like, no, don't you see this and the politics and the economics and the crime and the way that the structure is being built, and now with the AI, and like then you're focusing on those negativity parts, which is already an amazing thing if you are there in your emotional scale. The trick thing is to deal with everything in an emotional level comparison to the logical level, which I, as an engineer, are very, very strong at, is in what is happening. And now I kind of drove that together, as in, it is understanding that it's about that logical mind. It's about the vibrational mind, vibrational state. And being in that is so powerful. And like within that map of consciousness, they also talk about a concept of intuition and manifestation. Because let's imagine, let me add a different quote. There is something that is called there are two things. There's so many things, I can talk for hours, which is quite fun for those who are listening to this. There is a quote of our soul lives inside of our body, or at least that's what most people, if they believe in a soul, which is already a massive step, then they still believe that the soul is inside of your body. And I recently read something, heard something, no idea where, by the way, but it really resonated with me. And that states that your body is living inside of your soul. So that means that your soul is way better, or way bigger, let me say it differently. And that really clicked something inside of me, because if I am the one that is observing my body, as in the I would be the soul in a certain way, and even the concept of an I is relative. But if my soul is bigger than my body itself, so that's the energy field around me, and it's using my body to create physical movements in my physical surroundings, then it makes sense that my soul also can communicate with other people's souls in a certain way. And if you are together with someone, with your love partner, or with a group of friends, like a social circles, and that layer of, I don't know, in a certain way, it's is there then still a separation of the souls? And that's something that I'm leaning into. Like, and I'm feel I'm feeling it while I'm speaking it out. I'm feeling like a knot in my body. Like, 'cause that includes. That means so much. Like, imagine, or not even imagine, but what I believe, because everything is based on belief system. So what I believe when I'm speaking with certain people, and they are in line mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then it is a relief to be a part of their surroundings, like their physical appearance. Like, it becomes so deep, so powerful. So I really like that, and it's um, like what I'm doing actively now is me taking care of my body more and more and more, like being healthy, like being stronger, like mentally, physically, intellectually. That's also kind of mentally, but different kind of mentally. And it's then, yeah, it has been a very interesting journey based on that. Like, and even then, it starts to make sense about like mudras, for example. How does that work? How does that connect to energy work? How does that connect to um, guasha? Or how does that connect to even yoga? Like the poses. Like, all of us are broad signals in a certain way with a level of consciousness that even transcends time. Because I can think about how I'm going to do tomorrow in a certain way. And I can already experience the positive emotions that I'll experience tomorrow, but I can do that right now because I'm happy for that with that state. And it's that look, and I started off with this whole concept of the getting things done method of David Allen. Then it led me into information management of Tiago Forte with the para system. Then kind of led me into the insight management of, I don't know which is that guy. What's his name? Certain professor in Germany. Um, and that led me into kind of the spiritual mindset and different kind of books in the PKS, so Notion, the second brain methodology, writing down your stuff that you have been thinking about. Like, you are not your brain, you are not your body, but you're something that is observing that level. And identifying in all of these little parts and then actually like writing it down and be knowledgeable about all of those layers. It has been so amazing. And in this, yeah, like seriously, in a certain way, I believe that I'm like, I kind of found out the layer about how to grow properly, strongly, without all of the noise that's in our minds for such a long time. And it's the like just now I had an live call that I was in, a very interesting one, but it was about investing, and that's not something that I'm good in yet. In general, because I've got no idea where to start and how it works and what kind of jargon everyone uses. Um, but it's even there in that concept of creating wealth is creating wealth from that individual level. Like it first starts with being in line with yourself. What is your purpose? What's your goal? What's your vision? What do you want to achieve? What's holding you back? What kind of traumas have you collected over the years that act the way, or that makes you act the way that you have been doing? I kind of identified two massive ones for myself. I will not share that here in this live call for now because I don't feel comfortable with that layer yet. But it's first starting to admit stuff like this for yourself. Like on paper, on digital system, writing it down. What are you afraid of? What will happen? And I'm also very active in certain Reddit communities or Discord communities, and I'm reading certain texts, and it has been it's sometimes painful because you're seeing that previous version of yourself so deeply. So what I've been doing, also what I'm doing now actively, is I'm sharing that state of the way that I am right now. I'm talking about stuff that I've been doing, that I've been learning. It is really opening up. Because partially my soul is your soul, and your soul is partially my soul. And it's that growth, those little old habits. Yesterday, someone there's a storyline of someone that's taken care of her, 13-year-old girl, and she has like autism and anorexia and another thing. And I was very interested on especially the level of service people that are serving those kind of people who are in traumas, trauma response. It's not even in traumas, but trauma response. And yeah, it's an intense one because it's not only about the system is not set up properly for these layers, for the stuff that we are experiencing in life. And it's also the system that's behind that teaches people how to believe in a certain way. And like when I'm having conversation with one of the social workers, for example, then he is trying to convince me into, yeah, but this is what they have taught, so this is true. I'm like, that's interesting. That's the way that you're looking at it. Because every one of us has that own layer of exploring your own thoughts and your own reality of the world. So I love to have a conversation with him as in, hey, what do you see working? What have you learned? What kind of growth have you experienced? What kind of stuff have you mastered comparison to what I've done? But in a certain way, like externalizing that to the outside world, to someone else, is withholding us from true growth. Because then we're kind of like discussing about who is right or who is wrong. It's often what happens, also within the politics. Oh, those politics. But it's also be in that state of that full acceptance of someone else, even if he is mistaken based on your assumption, and still like, being curious. What makes you experience this? Something that I talked about with, or not with, but towards not Vision, Vision as well a little bit, but Jordan Peterson, as in what makes him act the way that he does, instead of like following his foot trail of intellectual knowledge, like actually tuning in, as in, hey, Mr. Peterson, hey, what's going on? How are you feeling? Like, what's that trauma response or that emotional response that you're having? And a lot of us are trying to avoid that because we're afraid of what kind of pain that it gives us in a certain way. Because if we have realized something, then it's almost painful to look at it. Because then the realization comes as, I should have known this way longer ago. Could be, at least that's how I experienced it in the past. And that is withholding us from growth, from personal growth. So, I've been talking now for half an hour. I really hope that it has been useful and fun to listen to me rant, as I am, growing in my impact here. Like, I feel like that I want to shout this off. I want to shout this from every rooftop as piece of knowledge for those who are struggling, for those who are in pain. Like, I know. And then that includes every level of addiction, angerness, criminality. Like, I know. And the rougher that your environment has been, the harder it becomes to get yourself out of that state, that resistance. Because, like I kind of started at the beginning, as that higher frequency of beings, and then the soul that's inside of the body. Like, the body is, like, comparison to this like physical thing. This is a physical thing that actually does not move in a certain way. Like, so the vibrations within this thing are very dense. What if you have lower density vibrating molecules? Then it becomes fluid, something like water. And that is easier to penetrate, or to move through, because you're not actually penetrating the water, but you're using something that is thicker to penetrate through this. So that's water. And then you have something that is the air, of course. Is that gas? No, not really gas, right? But the air. And that's even easier to move through it. So the higher that the vibrational state is, the vibrational molecules, the easier it is to move through those. Same goes for the body. The lower that your frequency count is, the more like tight and muscled, and it's not actually pleasant to be around someone like that, because they're you're feeling that. It's like, whoa. And then you're feeling the resistance. And the resistance is build up trauma in a certain way. It is him or her experiencing so much trauma in their physical life that they've resulted in having so much resistance in their body. And the challenge thing is to really focus on. A friend of mine is really good at this stuff, Sedona method. So Yvonne, like shout out if you're watching. It's like tuning into the body, like tuning into the resistance, and then accepting that that part is there, and then choosing if you want to let go of that part. So it's basically like tuning into the body and then letting go of that resistance that you have built up in your life. Yeah, and it goes so deep. So I want to close it off with that. If anyone is still watching after me ranting for 36 minutes now, um, feel free to have a conversation with me, live or on private, could be both. Every Tuesday evening, I give a productivity course, productivity hour, to just do some productivity stuff with these mindset levels underneath all of this. And I thank you very much and have a great day. Bye bye.